The Oracle Arena in San Francisco was electric that Tuesday evening in March. The Golden State Warriors were facing the Los Angeles Lakers in what promised to be one of the most exciting games of the season. The golden lights illuminated the polished court as thousands of fans filled every seat, their voices creating a thunderous roar that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. In Section 112, 12-year-old Maya Johnson sat wide-eyed, clutching her Warriors jersey with trembling hands. This was her first NBA game, a birthday gift from her grandmother who had saved for months to afford the tickets. Maya's dark eyes sparkled with pure joy as she watched her hero, Stephen Curry, warming up on the court below. She had dreamed of this moment for years, practicing his signature three-point shots in her backyard, studying his moves on her phone, and wearing his jersey to school every Friday. "Look, Grandma, there he is," Maya whispered excitedly, pointing toward the court, where Curry was effortlessly sinking shot after shot during warm-ups. Her grandmother, Dorothy, smiled warmly, her weathered hands adjusting her own Warriors cap. At 73, Dorothy had lived through decades of struggle and change, and seeing her granddaughter's pure happiness made every penny she'd saved worth it. The arena buzzed with anticipation as fans settled into their seats. The smell of popcorn and hot dogs wafted through the air, mixed with the excited chatter of thousands of voices. Maya had never been in a crowd this large, and the energy was intoxicating. She held up her phone to take a selfie, her smile beaming as she tried to capture the magical moment. But as the game was about to begin, Maya noticed something that made her stomach drop. A group of 4 men in their 30s, sitting just 2 rows behind her, were pointing in her direction and laughing loudly. Their laughter had a cruel edge to it, cutting through the excitement like a cold blade. "Look at that little girl thinking she belongs here," one of them said, his voice carrying clearly over the crowd noise. "Probably can't even afford those seats." Maya's smile faded as she heard the comment. She looked down at her jersey, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Her grandmother had bought it from a discount store, and while it was authentic, it wasn't the newest design. Her sneakers were clean but worn, and her hair was styled in simple braids that her grandmother had done that morning. "Grandma, did you hear that?" Maya whispered, her voice barely audible over the arena noise. Dorothy's jaw tightened as she heard the comment. She had faced discrimination her entire life, but seeing it directed at her innocent granddaughter ignited a fire in her chest. "Don't you listen to them, baby. You belong here just as much as anyone else." The game began with a spectacular display of athleticism. Curry dribbled the ball with his signature flair, his movements fluid and precise. Maya tried to focus on the game, but the comments from behind continued to pierce through her excitement like tiny daggers. "She's probably here on some charity ticket," another voice sneered. "Look how she's dressed." Maya's hands began to shake as she held her phone. The tears that had been threatening to fall finally began to well up in her eyes. This was supposed to be the best night of her life, the culmination of years of dreaming, and her grandmother's sacrifice. Instead, it was becoming a nightmare she would never forget. The crowd roared as Curry made his first three-pointer of the night, but Maya barely noticed. She was too busy trying to hold back tears, her head down as the cruel laughter continued behind her. The magic of the evening was slipping away, replaced by a crushing weight of humiliation and sadness. Dorothy reached over and took her granddaughter's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Hold your head up, Maya. Don't let them steal your joy." But the damage was already being done. Maya's first NBA game, the night she had dreamed about for so long, was turning into a painful lesson about the cruelty that still existed in the world. As the first quarter continued, she struggled to focus on the game, her hero seeming farther away than ever before. Little did she know that Stephen Curry himself was about to change everything. The second quarter was in full swing when Stephen Curry called for a timeout. The Warriors were up by 8 points, and the crowd was on their feet, cheering wildly. Curry wiped the sweat from his forehead with a towel, his eyes scanning the crowd as he often did during breaks. He loved connecting with fans, especially the young ones who looked up to him. That's when he noticed her. In Section 112, a young black girl sat with her head down, her shoulders shaking slightly. Even from the court, Curry could see that she was crying. Her grandmother sat beside her, one protective arm around her shoulders, whispering words of comfort. But what caught Curry's attention even more was the group of men behind them, still laughing and pointing, their behavior becoming increasingly disruptive. Curry had seen this before. Despite all the progress society had made, moments like these still happened far too often. As a father of 3 children, including 2 daughters, the sight of a young girl being made to feel small ignited something fierce in his chest. "Coach, give me a minute," Curry said to Steve Kerr, his voice determined but controlled. Kerr followed Curry's gaze and immediately understood. "Go ahead, Steph. Do what you need to do." The arena was still buzzing with energy, but Curry's focus had shifted entirely. He walked toward the sideline, his eyes fixed on section 112. The security guards noticed his movement and began to follow, unsure of what was happening but ready to assist if needed. As Curry approached the stands, the noise level began to drop. Fans started to notice that their superstar was walking directly toward the crowd, not toward the bench or the locker room. Phones came out, cameras started recording, and a hush began to fall over that section of the arena. Maya was still looking down when she heard her grandmother gasp, "Maya, baby, look up! Look who's coming!" Maya lifted her tear-stained face and couldn't believe what she saw. Stephen Curry was walking directly toward her section, his eyes locked on hers with a warm, reassuring smile. The cruel laughter behind her had stopped abruptly as the men realized what was happening. "Hey there," Curry said softly as he reached the barrier between the court and the stands. His voice was gentle, but it carried clearly in the suddenly quiet section. "What's your name?" Maya's voice caught in her throat. She tried to speak but could only manage a whisper. "Maya. Maya, that's a beautiful name," Curry said, his smile widening. "I noticed you were upset, and I wanted to make sure you were okay. Are you having fun at the game?" The entire section was now watching the interaction. The men who had been making the cruel comments were suddenly very interested in their phones. Their earlier bravado completely evaporated. Other fans were pulling out their phones to record what was clearly becoming a special moment. I was having fun," Maya managed to say, her voice still shaky. "But some people were saying mean things." Curry's expression grew serious, but his voice remained gentle. "I'm sorry that happened to you, Maya, but I want you to know something very important. You belong here. Every single person in this arena belongs here when they come to support basketball. And you know what? I can tell you're a real Warriors fan." Maya nodded eagerly, finally finding her voice. "You're my favorite player ever. I practice your shots in my backyard every day. Is that right?" Curry grinned. "Well, I'll tell you what. I've got something special for you." He reached behind him and pulled off his warm-up shirt, the one he had been wearing during pregame. It was still warm from the arena lights, and had his signature on it in permanent marker. "This is for you, Maya, and I want you to remember something every time you look at it." Maya's eyes went wide as she accepted the shirt, her hands trembling with excitement and disbelief. "I want you to remember that you have just as much right to be here as anyone else," Curry continued, his voice now carrying to the entire section. "Basketball is for everyone who loves the game. Regardless of what they look like or where they come from, don't let anyone ever make you feel like you don't belong." The crowd around them began to applaud, the sound growing louder and louder. Maya clutched the shirt to her chest, tears now flowing freely. But these were tears of joy and overwhelming gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, but her words were lost in the growing roar of approval from the crowd. Curry wasn't finished. He looked directly at the group of men who had been making the comments, his expression now stern and unmistakable in its meaning. "I hope everyone here remembers that basketball brings us together. It doesn't matter what we look like or where we come from. We're all here for the same reason. We love this game." The message was clear, and the men who had been causing the trouble looked appropriately ashamed. But Curry's focus returned immediately to Maya, his expression softening again. "Now, Maya, I want you to cheer extra loud for us in the second half, okay? And keep practicing those shots. Maybe someday you'll be out here on this court." Maya nodded enthusiastically, Her earlier sadness completely transformed into pure joy. As Curry jogged back to the court, the entire section erupted in applause. The cruel laughter had been replaced by cheers of support and approval. But the magic of the moment was far from over. As the second half began, something remarkable happened in Section 112. The atmosphere had completely transformed. Where there had been tension and cruelty, there was now a sense of community and support. Fans who had witnessed Curry's gesture were going out of their way to make Maya feel welcome, offering her high fives, compliments on her jersey, and words of encouragement. Maya sat taller in her seat now, Curry's warm-up shirt draped over her lap like a precious treasure. Her grandmother Dorothy wiped away tears of her own, overwhelmed by the kindness that had transformed what could have been a terrible experience into something magical. "I can't believe Stephen Curry gave you his shirt," Dorothy whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "This is something you'll remember for the rest of your life, baby." Maya nodded, her eyes glued to the court, where Curry was playing with renewed energy. Every time he made a shot, she cheered louder than anyone else in the section. When he looked up toward the stands, he would catch her eye and smile, creating a connection that transcended the game itself. But the story was far from over. During a timeout in the third quarter, Maya noticed arena staff members walking toward her section with cameras and microphones. The Warriors' social media team had been alerted to what happened, and they wanted to capture more of this heartwarming moment. "Maya, would you mind if we filmed a quick video with you?" asked Jessica, the team's social media coordinator. "We'd love to share your story with other Warriors fans." Maya looked at her grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. "What would you like me to say?" "Just tell us how you're feeling right now," Jessica said gently, positioning her camera. Maya looked directly into the lens, her confidence growing with each word. "I'm feeling amazing. Stephen Curry is the nicest person ever. Some people were being mean to me, but he came over and made me feel like I really do belong here. He gave me his shirt and told me to keep practicing. I'm going to work even harder now because I know he believes in me." The video was simple, authentic, and powerful. Within minutes of being posted on the Warriors' social media accounts, it began to gain traction. The combination of Curry's gesture and Maya's genuine response struck a chord with viewers around the world. As the fourth quarter began, the arena's energy reached a fever pitch. Curry was having one of his best games of the season, seemingly inspired by the interaction with Maya. Every three-pointer he made, he would point toward Section 112, where Maya would jump up and cheer with unbridled joy. The crowd began to notice this interaction, and soon the entire arena was aware of Maya's story. When the kiss cam focused on her during a timeout, the entire crowd erupted in cheers. Maya blushed and waved, completely comfortable now in the spotlight. But the most magical moment came with just 2 minutes left in the game. The Warriors were up by 12 points, and victory was all but assured. During a free throw, Curry caught Maya's attention and pointed to the court. Then he made a gesture that everyone in the arena could see. He was dedicating his next shot to her. The crowd went wild as Curry dribbled the ball up the court. Maya stood up, clutching his shirt to her chest, as thousands of fans turned to look at her. The arena fell silent as Curry pulled up from way beyond the three-point line, his signature deep shot that had made him famous around the world. The ball sailed through the air in a perfect arc, and when it swished through the net without touching the rim, the arena exploded. Curry immediately pointed to Maya, who was jumping up and down with pure joy, tears streaming down her face. The moment was captured by dozens of cameras, both professional and personal. Videos of Maya's reaction, Curry's dedication, and the crowd's response began flooding social media immediately. The hashtag, Maya and Steph, started trending within minutes. But it wasn't just about the basketball. It was about the transformation of a young girl who had walked into that arena feeling small and walked out feeling like she could conquer the world. It was about a superstar athlete who remembered that his platform came with responsibility and who used that platform to lift up someone who needed lifting. As the final buzzer sounded and the Warriors celebrated their victory, Curry made one more gesture that would be talked about for years to come. He walked back to Maya's section and, with the help of security, brought her and her grandmother down to the court. "Maya, I want you to meet my teammates," he said as other Warriors players gathered around. "I told them about you, and they all want to say hello." For the next 10 minutes, Maya found herself surrounded by NBA superstars, all of whom had heard her story and wanted to show their support. Klay Thompson gave her a basketball signed by the entire team. Draymond Green took a selfie with her that he immediately posted to his Instagram with the caption, "This is what basketball is all about. Welcome to the Warriors family, Maya." As the arena began to empty, Maya and her grandmother finally prepared to leave. But this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. The videos of Maya's experience had already been viewed millions of times, and the responses were pouring in from around the world. The young girl who had walked into Oracle Arena feeling like she didn't belong was leaving as an inspiration to millions 3 days. After the game, Maya's life had completely changed. The video of her interaction with Stephen Curry had been viewed over 50 million times across all social media platforms. News outlets from ESPN to CNN had picked up the story, and Maya had become a symbol of resilience and the power of kindness. But perhaps the most meaningful changes were happening in Maya's own community. At Jefferson Elementary School in Oakland, where Maya was a 6th grader, the entire school was buzzing with excitement about their suddenly famous classmate. "Maya, can you tell us about meeting Stephen Curry?" asked her classmate Marcus during lunch. A crowd of students had gathered around her table, all eager to hear about her incredible experience. Maya, who just a week ago had been shy and often kept to herself, now spoke with confidence and joy. "He was so nice to me. He told me that I belong anywhere I want to be, and that I should never let anyone make me feel small." Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had been watching the transformation with amazement. "Maya has always been a bright student, but she was quite reserved," she explained to the local news reporter who had come to interview Maya at school. "Since Tuesday night, she's been a different child. She's confident, she's participating more in class, and she's become a leader among her peers." The impact extended far beyond just Maya. The 4 men who had been making the cruel comments at the game had been identified through social media posts, and the backlash had been swift and severe. 2 of them had issued public apologies, acknowledging their behavior and expressing genuine remorse. "I was completely out of line," wrote David Chen, one of the men, in a Facebook post that went viral. "Watching that video and seeing how my words affected that little girl made me realize how toxic my behavior was. I've reached out to apologize to Maya and her family, and I'm committed to being a better person." But the most significant changes were happening on a larger scale. The Warriors organization, inspired by Maya's story, announced the creation of the Maya Johnson Inclusion Initiative, a program designed to ensure that all fans, regardless of their background, felt welcome at Warriors games. Maya's experience reminded us that we have a responsibility to create an inclusive environment for all of our fans, said Warriors president Rick Welts during a press conference. This initiative will include fan education programs, increased sensitivity training for our staff, and a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior. Stephen Curry, meanwhile, had been following Maya's story closely. A week after the game, he showed up at Jefferson Elementary School unannounced, carrying a special gift. "Maya, I have something for you," he said as he walked into her classroom, causing the students to gasp in disbelief. He handed her a brand-new basketball with a personal message engraved on it. "To Maya, keep shooting for your dreams. The world needs more people like you, Steph." But Curry's visit wasn't just about Maya. He spent an hour talking to the entire class about kindness, inclusion, and the importance of standing up for others. "What happened to Maya could happen to any of you," he told the students. "But what I want you to remember is that each of you has the power to make someone's day better. You don't have to be a professional athlete to make a difference. You just have to care about other people." The ripple effects continued to spread. Teachers across the country began using Maya's story as a teaching tool for lessons about empathy and inclusion. Youth basketball leagues started implementing Maya's Rule, a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior. 1 month after the game, Maya and her grandmother were invited to be special guests at the Warriors' season finale. This time, they sat in premium seats provided by the team, and Maya was asked to participate in the pre-game ceremony. As she walked onto the court wearing her Warriors jersey, now signed by the entire team, the crowd gave her a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. Maya, who had once felt so small and unwelcome, now stood tall and proud at center court, smiling and waving to thousands of fans who had come to see her as much as the game. Stephen Curry joined her at center court for the ceremonial tip-off. "How does it feel to be back?" he asked her. Maya grinned and looked around at the cheering crowd. "It feels like home," she said simply. The game that night was dedicated to Maya and to the principles she had come to represent: inclusion, kindness, and the power of sport to bring people together. The Warriors won, but the real victory had happened weeks earlier when a superstar athlete chose to use his platform to lift up a young girl who needed it most. As Maya and her grandmother walked out of the arena that night, they passed the same section where the cruel comments had been made, a month earlier. But now, instead of painful memories, Maya felt only gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment. "Grandma, thank you for bringing me to that first game," Maya said as they walked toward their car. Dorothy smiled and squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "Baby, you taught me something that night. You showed me that even when people try to make you feel small, you can choose to stand tall. And sometimes, when you do that, the whole world notices." Maya's story had become more than just a viral moment. It had become a reminder that small acts of kindness can create waves of change that extend far beyond what we can imagine. A 12-year-old girl's painful experience had been transformed into a movement of inclusion and acceptance, all because one person chose to notice when someone was hurting and decided to do something about it. The young girl who had once felt like she didn't belong had become a symbol of belonging for millions of people around the world. And in doing so, she had proven that sometimes the most powerful victories happen not on the scoreboard, but in the human heart.